This is Beyond the Metagame. I'm your host, Peon, this week live from the Fountain of Dreams. I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, AV. AV, how you doing, big guy?
You know, I've always wondered whether it's the place where dreams are created or whether they go to die there.
Wow.
Honestly, it's kind of a beautiful place, so I can imagine it being either one.
Okay.
But I'm glad that we're finally back at a Smash stage. It's been a while, but I I think it's good that we're finally back to our roots. And,
maybe it's like hazards on. The dreams go there to be formed. Hazards off. No. Hazards on, they go to die. Hazards off, they don't. What do you think about that? By the way, there's like a big debate going on right now between Fountain of Dreams. You know, is it redundant? Is it too much like Battlefield? Hazards on, hazards off. Just real quick before we get into it, I'm curious about your take.
Yeah. I think it's actually super interesting, but I think moving platforms offer a lot to gameplay. I think there's some cases where they're super destructive and toxic to gameplay, like stuff with the Smashville platform killing super early with sheet combos or nest back throw. But I actually think in the case of Fountain of Dreams, I think it's a super interactive element, and I think in that case, I think it really should be in there. I don't think hazards off would be that reasonable for it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm so with you. But have you been playing Smash 4 recently? Like, how's your relationship been with the game? What have you been doing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going to this weekly tournament in NorCal. It's super fun. It's called Six Rugs in a Bracket. To's great. Name's Alex. Runs a good. He runs a tight ship. He runs a great ship.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've been kind of stepping away from the game so much. I guess I'm so focused on Ultimate that I've kind of allowed myself some time to kind of just digest. You know, just take a little bit of break, because the last thing I want to do going into Ultimate is be smashed out. You know, I want to be playing like no life nonstop. When I get back from work, I want to play the game. You know, so I'm kind of taking a little bit of time off from the game. Not like in an official sense, but
yeah. So that's got me thinking, like, how are we going to prepare for the game, and how do we prepare in general?
Ooh.
Like, I think that's something that we should talk about, and that the viewers would love to listen to.
Well, what a segue, Abhi, because that just happens to be this week's topic. Looking forward to get into it. You know, we're going to talk about how we're going to prepare for Ultimate upon release, but we're also going to talk about preparation in general in Smash. So what does that mean? You know, preparing for bracket demons, preparing for bad matchups, preparing for specific events, specific matchups against, you know, specific players, and you know, all of that kind of stuff. And I think it's an important topic. It doesn't really get talked about too much, so we're going to really delve deep into that. But before we do, sorry to cut you off, Abhi, I have an announcement to make. We have a new country. And I did clarify, by the way, last week I was unsure. South America is a different continental plate than North America, so we did get a different one. Just got to say. But this week, we got New Zealand in the mix. So thank you, New Zealand. I think that's like all of the... We had Canada, UK, New Zealand, Australia, US. Is that all the American... English-speaking countries where it's like their first language, of course?
There's a bunch of random ones. Like, I think technically Singapore, which has 4 national languages. English is one of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm more impressed that you know that than the mere fact that that's one of Singapore's languages. Is that weird? But yeah, thank you, New Zealand. You know, I love the show Flight of the Conchords. It's my favorite New Zealand import. And yeah, cool accent, not to be mistaken with the Australian one, although I probably wouldn't be able to hear the difference. And yeah, man, hey, whoever you are out there, thank you for tuning in. But Abhi, any last words before we get into this week's topic?
Oh, I'm really excited. Talking about preparation, something that I've gone through a lot in terms of preparing myself mentally, analytically, and I really do want to basically prep you guys with some of the things that we're going to talk about, mostly kind of introspecting, which we talk about a lot, and kind of just thinking about who we are as people and why we like follow up on certain habits that we're used to, and how we can break them in order to better prepare for specific matchups and specific tournaments that we might have anxiety, fear, or any sort of reservations about. And we will be getting to that and more right after this break.
Welcome back to Beyond the Metagame. This week, AV and I are going to be talking about preparation. AV, before we delve into anything else, I want to talk about, what is the importance of preparation? Why is it worth talking about?
Great question. It's a really hard answer most of the time. It really depends on what your goals are, right? So let's just say your goals are to be the best in your region. In that case, your preparation is extensive. Your preparation could involve just mental stuff, making sure that you have the right growth mindset based off of whether you win or lose. It could be sleeping or eating right. It could be it could be like watching VODs of previous events. It could be uh, practicing certain tech that you miss usually in tournament. Which is why when you think about preparation and all of these things that I covered, we're going to delve deeper into. But when you think about preparation, you have to understand what your goals are before you do that. Which is interesting because if your goals are like a lot more tame and your goals are just show up and have fun, there's not much you need to be prepared for. Which is why the first thing before you go into preparing for a tournament, event, matchup, or game that's the ultimate's coming out, people are preparing for that.
So
Just
we're saying it's like
understand.
preparing to
Yeah.
lose is not difficult. Preparing to win is the hard part.
Right. It's like understand what your goals are. I mean, it's not even preparing to lose. It's like if people are just there to have fun. Like if they win, great. If they if they lose, it's like whatever.
Sure thing. I think it's safe to say a vast majority of the people that stick around in the competitive scene, or even go at all, they want to win matches. Though I think everybody, even if they're not like super serious, they still want to win. I mean, O tours don't would be happy being one tours. I think you know.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's this weird chicken and the egg problem where people who are used to going O2 or 1-2 unfortunately get into this mindset of being of just coming to of saying that they're just coming to have fun, like outwardly, but inwardly they really care more and they want to improve. So I think, and one of the most important things is to be honest with yourself. And yeah, obviously I was saying kind of an extreme. I doubt there's many people who actually just come to a tournament, a competitive event, just to have fun.
Yeah. Oh, sure
But
thing. You were just kind of
yeah,
establishing like one end of the spectrum.
yeah, but I'm just like establishing that end. But that being said, I think the more common case is that people have told themselves that's what they want to do, and that's why that's going to resonate with people who at least who either think or like or know that it's their goal just to have fun. And I think something that's we're going to point out there is that you have to be honest with yourself, and that's the first step.
Sure thing. Yeah, I don't know. I guess is there a point where I think going to a tournament is pretty taxing. I mean, it's super fun, but especially if you're trying to be a really competitive player and you're really trying to do well, the actual event could be a bit draining. You kind of see like that moment in sports, or even like I think like Hungry Box in like Evo 2016 when he won and he had like the dramatic like rolling around on the floor thing, kind of like that release, that kind of collapse. Obviously it's very draining and exhausting to work in those conditions. Do you think that working extra hard behind the scenes, in addition to that, is could it ever be too much? Is there ever too much preparation? And of course, it's assuming you're also balancing like work or school or whatever else, whatever else you're doing in life.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the obvious and natural answer is yes. There's too much preparation, too much of anything is bad. But in specific, when you know that you're over preparing, when you're starting to feel burned out, we did an entire segment about burnout, and
Shout out to episode 2. Go watch it. Pause it now. Later, not right now.
yeah, it's actually one of my favorites, even though it didn't even though it was like really early on. But we talked about how playing the game too much and playing the game without any real goal or purpose is detrimental. And I think an easy way to see if you're over preparing is to see if your purpose doesn't really align with what you're doing. And I think that's very clear because if you like, let's just say your preparation was to study a matchup. Then suddenly, like you go watch a bunch of VODs, you watch like 2 hours of. Let's just say you hate the Cloud King K rule matchup in
That's so
Ultimate.
weird to even like say. Actually,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's kind of surreal to say King K rolls in Smash, but he looks really cool by
oh,
the
I'm
way.
so happy.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
but
Sorry.
let's just say like you're a Cloud player and King K rule is like the absolute Cloud counter, and and you watch like 2 hours of let's just say Cosmos suddenly playing Cloud and Nairo is the is the ultimate KK rule man, and you just watch a bunch of like Cosmos versus Nairo, and like you're watching a bunch of these sets, maybe friendlies they on stream or tournament matches, and you get some good info. You're taking notes, you're rewinding when you see things that you want to point out, and suddenly your friend asks you to play like For Glory, and suddenly you're playing like 3 hours. Sorry, your friend asks you to play like Wi-Fi matches. You're playing 3 hours of Wi-Fi matches, and it's like, and then you feel like you just spent 5 hours on Smash, like, and this isn't really uncommon. Like people
I've done it.
spend,
I've done this
yeah,
many times.
exactly. Like people spend ridiculous.
I
amounts
very
of time
often
on
watched
Smash.
Cosmos and Nairo play King K. Rool Cloud for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's very very common.
That's
Yeah,
just a Monday night for me. That's so sick though. I feel like Nairo just prediction is gonna have a sick King K. Rool, but finish your point.
yeah. I mean, for I think the funny part is that we don't realize how much we're actually playing. So as long as you realize that as long as you keep the scope or keep the, yeah, you just have a reference of what you're doing to prepare. I think you're fine. And the thing is, if Smash is just your thing to blow off steam, then don't put that in a different mindset. Don't count that as preparing.
Yeah, yeah. Here's the thing. I think that most people have a pretty firm understanding of when too much is enough for them. I mean, I think we have like a very good mechanism in our brain. Like it's the whole principle of diminishing returns. You start doing something for a while, and eventually you just get bored of it, even though it was fun initially. When the moment you start getting bored, just put it down. I think what a lot of people do in terms of preparation, their biggest mistake is they put a lot of time in, but they don't prepare efficiently. They spend a lot of time preparing. They do a lot of things to prepare. They're in the tech lab. They're labbing combos. They're doing stuff that they really think is going to benefit them in this upcoming tournament that they're prepping for. And I'm gonna try to suggest ways that you can use your time more efficiently. But going into it, I mean, we're talking about what kind of things should you prepare for?
So one of the things that people talk about a lot is preparing for bracket demons. Now, it's really interesting, this concept of someone that consistently beats you, regardless of the tournament, the day, how you're feeling. Someone you feel like has got your number. And and the thing is, I kind of found, or what I've seen, is that there's three different types of bracket demons. The first type is a play style demon. Now, from what I remember, you had a good example of this.
Yeah. I think that the example that is most often referenced, I think, of the playstyle demon thing. It was even like mentioned in the Smash Doc a lot. Was the whole like Hango, Mango versus Hungry Box dichotomy. Initially, years ago, Hungry Box would always lose to Mango, most often than not. Mango's kind of fiery playstyle, his get up in your face, dissecting game plan would kind of really be able to tear through HBox's kind of defensive minded puff. And now, funny enough, the tables have turned. I mean, in recent years, last couple of years anyway, HBox has really seemed to have Mango's number. And but anyway, I referenced it because that was a real example of HBox had to have been thinking to himself, like day in, day out, man, this Mango guy, I hate his beard, I hate his hat, I hate his tattoos. This dude is just all over me. I feel like I can't seem to win, right? But yeah, I mean, Abby, do you have any bracket demons? Can you relate to this at all?
I mean, I think for a while I was playing. I have this like really like patient play style. So, and the thing is, whenever people seem to like figured that out and figured to say it's like, hey, like I'm just gonna be equally as patient as you are. I actually had a lot of trouble against that, and it was just a matter of just basically actively switching how I played. My preparation for that involved opening my mind to different ways that the game can be played, watching DKs that played differently than me being a DK man, of course. And I watched like I tried to watch every single style of DK, the way that he can be played, and I tried literally just copying, just printing these these different play styles into my head, and actually that helped me out a lot.
Really? So you never thought like if you look back on your Smash 4 career, it would have like one demon?
I mean, absolutely. I've definitely had at least two people that would have a very strangely high like winning record on me, especially during a time where I was where I was the best player in my region, and it's interesting because it's like when you have when you have someone that's just always beating you, and even if you're like the best player, it kind of like puts like it puts a dark spot, like a blemish on on your legacy or your ranking. It's like it feels like it feels like you're don't deserve it in a way.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. And yeah, for sure. I mean, I've definitely had my fair share of demons. Funny enough, I mean, but the podcast listeners may not. AV was a demon of mine. Consistently, I would be ranked number one in our region. AV, a very, very, very solid player in his own right. But even when he was inactive, he'd come out of tournaments and he would lose to randos and then beat me, who was number one at the time. I'm like, I hate you, Abhi. But no, and I've had many other than AV in the past. And the way that I would always break down my demons, and the way I'd recommend you to as well, is, and it's actually a really great experience to have a demon, right? A playstyle demon, because when learning how to beat them, you also have to learn about how you play. You have to be really introspective and think like, okay, this is the kind of guy I am. This is the kind of guy he is or she is. Um, and how do I change how I am to be what they are? And it's this really kind of cool mental process. It's like this really fun kind of warlike chess game that you can play out of the game, while you're watching VODs. And yeah, I would watch if you have the luxury of playing stream matches against them, watch your brackets. Look, every time you get hit, think why am I getting hit? Every time you hit them, why am I able to land that hit? And really try to understand their tendencies and their personality, and try to understand how their strengths are exposing your weaknesses. In literal terms. For AV and I was a cloud. I'm known for spamming my back airs on shield, and Abi would condition me and grab me. So I learned, okay, look, this guy wants me to attack his shield. How do I get around it, right? And really kind of plan out your adjustments the day or two before that you may play them. That's what I do.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good overall schematic for for figuring out a playstyle demon. Now, what I want to go on to is the second type of demon, which doesn't it's not necessarily mutually exclusive from a playstyle demon, but it's like a psychological demon. Now, this kind of player has gotten into your head. This could definitely be from the first thing. This could be like a development. It's like going from bronchitis to pneumonia.
Or HIV to AIDS.
Yeah, like these analogies are really morbid, but it's it's something where like someone has beaten you so many times that regardless of how well you've improved as a player, or how like how much you've progressed like mentally or analytically, you freeze when you play this person, or you feel like you you feel like the breath has been taken out of you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's like, and it's so true. Like this happens like especially like you feel like you're about to win, like especially in the moments where you just start thinking, okay, all I have to do is land like one like back air or one grab just to win this game. And you start and you think about it so much because you've never beat this person in the world. You've never beat this person at any time, so like all you're thinking about is the win instead of the actual match. Like have you ever felt that way?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've had quite a few psychological demons over the years. Well, not quite a few, but I've definitely had a few. S2H comes to mind. A great Meta Knight / Diddy player from SoCal. The dude, kind of known for his sharking. You know, he'll go around to tournaments and he'll win locals. He'll go to locals. He'll know he'll win, and he wins them. I mean, props to him. I'm not hating. But the dude beat me and beat everybody in our region time and time again. And it came to the point where I would be against him. I would often take him to game 5 or game 3 or whatever, depending on where we met in the bracket, and he would just clutch out every time. And I would attribute it to the concept that we've talked about before, where you're in that situation, and this guy, man, he beats me, and I don't like his Meta Knight or his haircut, and and I just hate the fact that I can't beat him. And those kind of meta things, the context around the match is what actually builds up this like psychological wall that you have. And I eventually got a W on him, and slayed that demon. But it was definitely much harder than it could have been, had he been not such a psychological barrier.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of. I mean, I can't give any really notable examples, but there's been a lot of times where it would literally just be down to the wire, and I would have the win in my sights, and what would happen is that I would just start thinking about it, and I would flub really simple things. I'd miss really easy kill confirms, or or like my hands would just stop being able to move, and it's really interesting. I think that there's just a lot of discipline that comes with that comes with just not giving a face to your opponent until the match is over. And I think that's like it's one of the easiest things to preach, but easily the hardest like to follow in practice.
I like what you said about that, actually, like not giving a face to your opponent, and I think that applies even beyond just the psychological demon. I think whoever you're fighting, you should just look at the character and forget who was behind the sticks. But like you said, yeah, it's hard, easier said than done. It's something to strive towards, as opposed to start practicing immediately, right?
Right, right. I think we're gonna move on to the third type of demon. It's matchup demon. Someone who in your region plays a matchup that your character sucks against, and it's like, and there's a lot of people that claim that matchups don't matter in mid level or low level play.
Oh, I hate anyone that says that.
All right, I won't go so far as to say I hate them, like, but I say that, but I understand, the sentiment because it's just not true. Like as I've seen, like I mean, obviously, if the skill gap's big enough, you can overcome it. Like if I'm playing as DK, if I'm playing a Rosa or a Zero Suit or a Bayo, that's lower skill than me, I can usually always win.
Yeah, but that's so obvious. I hate when people like no one's
Right.
ever proven to me why that matters. Like, here's the thing: if I'm an experienced player, I've beaten a top 11 player before, or the 11th best player. I'm not like a god. I'm not a PGR player. But I'm a veteran, right? As pretty much anybody listening to the podcast, I assume most of you are too, right? But if I were to play up against a noob, like a 2-year-old who picks up the controller, I would rather him be King Dedede than Sheik. Is all I'm saying. Uh, like matchups still matter. If you're better, then you're better. Yeah, but what? I don't get that. I don't. No one's ever explained it to me in a way I understand.
I do think that there is something to be said about matchup unfamiliarity, but I think that's a completely different thing. It's just a different thing entirely. one thing that I want to talk about matchup demons is that there's a few ways to approach it. In preparing for a matchup demon, you have two options really, and we've talked about this to some extent. But your option is either to train with your main, or to pick up a secondary that beats that matchup. And often the case when people, I think we literally got that question asked on the show before, and I think it's a really difficult choice to make. And often the path of least resistance is actually just to pick up a secondary. Interestingly enough, I've found that that like both staying in my main and both picking up a secondary have worked equally well in completely different cases, and it's really hard for me to make a specific recommendation. What do you think, Peon?
Yeah, I think it comes down to it isn't so obvious. It isn't so obvious. I've said before on this very podcast that if you're the kind of player where you're playing your main and it's a bad matchup and you lose in one of your first, like, if you think about this, even within like the next 10 minutes after you lose, like, man, my character sucks in that matchup. That matchup's so hard. I think if you think that even one time, well, okay, if you think that like time and time again, then it's time to pick up a secondary. If you're like a fatality or an elegant who's like, yo man, or a Sinji, and you're like, dude, I just played bad. Like I can definitely win that matchup. That's my B. Then yeah, you can go ahead and persevere. You have the right mindset. But I think it depends. I think it depends. Does the opponent that you're playing against have a really good handle on the matchup? Do they know how to exploit your weaknesses? Do they know how to push the strengths of their character in that matchup to the highest potential? And do you play them multiple times, like a season? Like, are they in your region? If all those factors are true, I think a secondary is starting to look pretty good. Especially in Smash Ultimate, where there's going to be so many different characters, and matchup infamiliar is going to be a thing, especially in the start. So yeah, I think, like you said, it's a kind of a case by case basis, and I don't want to come too firm with an answer here. I think it's something you're gonna have to kind of feel out for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I hold that sentiment to be true. There's cases in which DKs I've been able to do a DK regardless of how bad the matchup is, and there's cases where okay, I'm busting out the pocket cloud. Like, not to not not to say that I couldn't do it with DK, or that or that if I put enough time in. But it's just a point where like I just didn't didn't have the motivation to learn to persevere in that situation. And it's about time too. I think a huge thing is time. One of the things that we talked about earlier on this episode, and one of the things that will essentially be the hallmark of this episode, is time. Time is your biggest limiting resource in life, and unfortunately, you will have to do some kind of balance to efficiently get results. My my time was limited like very severely when I was playing competitively, and now that I'm kind of getting back into it, it's even more limited. And I think that if there's a matchup that I just haven't practiced, I'm absolutely, if I like lose game one in tournament, I'm switching to a character that I know that can comfortably win the matchup. And the thing is, like, you have to really understand what is your goal. Like, if your goal to basically show up and be that guy or girl that plays Roy and and wins with Roy. Like, if that's your goal, then
Hey,
you just
Roy seems pretty sick now.
that's true. That's true. Like, yeah, I feel like the skilled Roy will be able to beat any Fox.
Now it's gonna be like a skilled Fox can beat any Roy. Like the meme's gonna be switched.
Yeah.
This Fox is looking pretty mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, Fox actually looks okay. I actually think it's really hard to make Fox bad in any game. Brawl tried. Brawl did a tried hard to make Fox bad, but it's at the end of Brawl's lifespan, Fox actually became a strange Meta Knight counter. It's really weird.
Brawl Fox is actually pretty cool. I gotta say, I like him.
Brawl Fox is fair. It was a really cool move. It did so much damage, but yeah, I think one thing that might be something that a lot of people think about is preparing for tournaments. Now, as someone that
Is that how you say that? Tournaments?
Is that
I feel like I say tournaments,
tournaments?
but
Okay,
no, but I like the way you say it. I think I might make the
okay.
transition.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up learning the British or weird pronunciations for a lot of words, so
Because wait, is
that's
that because you're Indian? That's a thing.
yeah, we got that colonialism going. No, but
My mom took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 40% British.
really,
Yes.
uh,
So we
I-
all those listeners in the UK. Hey lads, what's up, man? Hey, well, one of you. But sorry, go ahead.
all right, but I think I think looking at preparation for tournaments is one of the most important things. I have a very strict regimen when it comes to tournaments. Like if I need to be fueled in the correct way as possible. I have to eat a specific time beforehand. I have to like drink a ton of water. I have to have this much like amount of sleep. Otherwise, I know I'm not going to perform well.
Really?
And yeah, and I implore everyone to figure out what's works best for them. I mean, it only like the only way that you can really figure it out is by trial and error. Like everything in life, growth is a long it's you have to be thinking in the long term.
Yeah, it's
So
cyclical, right?
yeah,
I mean, there'll be ups and downs
yeah,
along the way.
yeah, exactly. And like we talked about, like life. Well, some philosophers believe that overall life is a negative experience in total. I think the complete opposite. I think life has a positive trajectory, and that we're unable to see the positive trajectory based off of the ups and downs that are so that
Yeah,
kind of
like where we are
obfuscate.
in the current wavelength, like whether we're on
Exactly.
the down.
Yeah, and where are we on that curve of like whether are we not on an up or a down? Like where are we relative to where we were 5 or 10 years ago? And I think that you just have to play it out, find out what works for you. But I think like going into that, I want to know. So I don't know if like is your like regimen before tournaments as strict? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, it's funny because we've actually never talked about this, like person to person. Like you and I, we've been to a lot of tournaments together, but usually we get there separately. Like we don't. I don't know.
Right, right.
I don't really, and I don't really like do my routine. Well, I'm a very firm believer, and I think this is a like you were saying, a case by case basis. But I'm a very firm believer in getting your hands warm before the tournament. You know, but only a little bit. I want to get warm. I want to make sure that when I play, I'm still fresh, but I'm not flubbing. You know, I'm not doing like uncharacteristic flubs. Especially if you're a melee player and ultimate seems to be faster. You know, PM player. You have to make sure your ledge dashes are crisp, stuff like that, right? You cannot be slacking going into the game. Smash 4 less so, but still important. What I do is before I even go to a tournament, like at home, I just play for glory or not for glory, but I'll play against bots or whatever. I'll just beat a punching bag up. That's a huge part of my ritual. Um, and yeah, I'll make sure that I'm not hungry or full before a tournament. I think there's like this. We've talked about this, where there's like this natural phenomenon where you eat and you kind of become satiated. You know,
Right.
and I don't want to be satiated when I play. There's this concept in sports psychology where you wanna perform in your optimal stress level, and so the midpoint on like the stress spectrum is like, you know, the bottom is apathy and the top is panic attack, and you want to be in the middle between apathy and panic attack, right? So the thing is when I have a nice slice of pizza or like a sugary drink or something, I start trending towards apathy, where I'm like just kind of relaxed, kind of content. I don't want to be content. I want to be hungry, but not distractedly so. That's a big thing for me. And another huge thing is, especially if I'm going to a major, I want to know everybody I might play that day. Every relevant player that's going to be there, I want to have their VOD studied. I want to know what characters they play, what stages they like to go to, their play style, what they kill with, like what options, how do they end sets, you know, how do they lose sets. I want to know what they trend towards. I'm really big into that. What's your ritual look like?
Well, like I talked about, I have a very similar thing in terms of I don't want to be too hungry or too full. I think that's such a perfect way to describe it. I know some people are on different ends. I know I know I've talked to Jay Tails, a previous guest on this show, a lot about this, and he actually really likes being hungry. During he won't eat at all during tournaments, and I respect that because I've definitely had times where I go and like down a bottle of Soylent, which is this like it's supposed to be a meal in itself at a tournament, and I just don't do well. Like I feel very satiated. I think the human brain when you like do anything that goes towards our prime directive of survival, like once we've eaten, like it's like what other purpose do we have? Like
So we really are just like bags of meat, man. Sometimes, like when I think about this stuff, I'm like, man, I'm just like I'm such a biological, like what am I? But just like a biology. Like it's kind of it's this is pretty meta even for us, but I don't know, man. It's kind of a huge topic to say like to really understand like why I'm alive. I think that's like the worst grade I ever got in high school. I got a D. Made it to a university. I got a D in biology just because I don't know, man. It freaks me out. Creeps me out.
yeah, like back to beyond the meta game. we we it's true. Like we are very we are very like we respond well to like simple biological stimuli. So yeah, a lot like eating just be like finding that perfect mid ground between being full and hungry is definitely something that I practice. I think that's something that in general people will be looking to hit. Other than that, I actually don't play at all before tournaments, and that's why I did want to emphasize the fact that everyone has their own way of preparing. I don't really want to warm up until I get to the event because I don't really want to think about think about Smash until I get there. I'm someone who like has a lot of who like has had a lot of tournament anxiety in the past, and like even thinking about it would kind of make me a little nervous. So I just want to get there, just and then maybe warm up there and have fun with my warm up matches. Actually, not play seriously at all, and that actually helped me a lot in the tournament. And it's interesting. It's interesting how that is what brought success to me, whereas you're extremely like serious and like gameplay focused preparation is what brought success to you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I come from a sports background, you know. Before a game of basketball, your coach brings you to the locker room, you know, yells at you, pumps you up. You have like warm up an hour before the game. You know, you're suiting up the whole day at school. You're wearing like a suit and tie to like, it's like this whole thing. It's this whole mental process. And yeah, that's the background I come from. That's what I'm used to. I like to prepare. I like to be in the zone before the event. And yeah, and I think the important takeaway is whatever your ritual is, practice it. You know, really hone it down. You want to enter tournaments at a consistent basis. You know, you never want to surprise yourself. You never want to be not feeling it that day. You know, all this time in prep is actually so important to the final product. You know what I mean? You can't skip foreplay, gentlemen. You got to spend time. You got to spend time preparing. It's important. You want to be in the door, ready to go, and however you come to that conclusion is up to you. But take our advice on that and see if you relate. But if not, you know, whatever you need to do to get in the right state of mind, make sure you do it consciously.
Yeah, definitely. I think you did a really good job of wrapping that up there, and I think I want to transition this into preparing for a new game, Smash Ultimate. Now we kind of grazed on this like in a few of our episodes, and we talked about learning a new game with J Tails. We talked about we talked about what's going to be new in the upcoming game in another of our episodes. But how like what should we do in order to be best prepared when we're about to jump into the game in terms of like psychologically or our mentalities, not just like who are we going to play on day one, or what things are we going to take into the lab, like what what frame data are we looking for, or what moves are we looking for?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
how do we like psychologically prepare for this? And I want to ask, what is your plan going in? What is your goal? Yeah.
Yeah, sure thing. So that is a good way to start, right? The plan is you should make a goal. What is your goal for Ultimate? Listeners, answer that for yourself, and that will inform your plan. For me, I want to be very good. I want to continue this podcast. I want to build a community and have a fun place to hang out, and I want to commentate a lot. But I want to be a good player. My story, which is way more dramatic than it actually was, or which sounds way more dramatic than I actually mean it to be. But my history of Smash Four was I was just a random guy, a casual who got into the competitive scene and eventually became good enough to be a PGR player. And that isn't like some crazy story. There's plenty of people that are better than me, more talented than me. Fine, but I think is it too crazy to assume that if I got from point A to point B, I can go from a guy that could beat a PGR player in Smash Four to being on the PGR in Ultimate? So should I just say it right now? I want to be on the PGR in Ultimate. That'd be sick, man. Maybe that's my goal. I'm gonna say it right now.
That's respectable. I think that's cool. I could definitely see you getting there. You've definitely had a really solid growth path, and I think if you take that mentality into Ultimate, I think I wouldn't be surprised at all. I
But
think it's interesting to see my goals in Ultimate, and my goal is like mostly community based. I actually have no goals with how well I want to do. I just want to be like a part of the community up here in NorCal, and I want to kind of just contribute in any way that I can. Obviously, I will care about playing the game competitively, and if I end up becoming one of the like a relevant player here, that's a cool side product. So when I'm going into the game, my mentality day one isn't like who's the most broken. And like so I can just optimize that and just grind a bunch of the early tournaments. My mentality is who do I identify with the most? Like who am I gonna have the most fun with?
yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
for me, I mean, I've already started kind of making my plans. I've already coordinated with friend of the show, Jay Tails, who's kind of like we had him on. He's known for being amazing at these games right away, right? I mean, think Smash Four, he took sets off to Buzz, Mewtwo King. The dude doesn't mess around, and he lives like 2 hours away from me. So I'm already staying at his house for like a weekend at least, just like binging the game and learning like some really cheesy day one strats. So I'm definitely gonna go in hard at the start, and put some time in. But yeah, in terms of what I'm doing now, playing, I kind of touched on it in the intro, and that's kind of just taking a little bit of mental prep for the game. Because I'm gonna go so hard, or a little mental break from Smash Four. That is because I'm gonna be going so hard at the start of Ultimate. I kind of need to balance out by just chilling a little bit for now, delving into some other hobbies, spending time on the podcast, stuff like that. But that's how I'm kind of getting my mind squared. Um, yeah, I mean, what are you doing? Are you just, I mean, your goals are less intense, right? So maybe the preparation will be as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping that like we kind of like reach out to the whole spectrum of people that are there. I mean, I know, like any people are gonna be like somewhat in between like me and Peon. But my preparation is I'm kind of the opposite. I'm just kind of still having fun with Smash 4, still appreciating the game for what it is, still entering events and just kind of building just kind of building relationships in the community and just having fun because that's just what I'm going to be doing in Ultimate, and so I'd hope to carry that over. And I implore people to figure out what they truly want. And I don't I see this a lot. I see people that go into a game really fired up or even like go into a match tournament with some expectations of how well they're going to do. And and if they don't reach it, they pretend as if their goal was to have fun in the first place. There's a huge problem with this because you're lying to yourself and you're not and you're kind of putting yourself back. You're taking a huge step back in terms of mental and analytical growth. And I want to really like drill in the fact that you be consistent with your goal. my like no matter what, it's like maybe this will change sometime in the future, but like for the longest time my goal has mostly just been to have fun with the community and to contribute to the community, and that hasn't changed and like and at any point in time. And because of that, I was able to improve as a player. Because of that, I was able to improve as a TO. Because of that, I was able to improve as a contributor and someone that made that strive to make the community a better place. And all of this feeds into each other. So basically creating this goal and making sure that your path is clear and consistent. Consistency is absolutely the most important thing. And I just want to kind of like drill it in there right then so that we can so that when we're going into ultimate we can all at least be happy with with our progress and not kind of like jump back and forth and make sure that like everyone's on a path that really makes sense for the individual.
Yeah, sure thing. I think that all kind of stems into the fact of like right now is an awesome opportunity to construct an amazing analytical and mental framework going into the game. We have downtime. People aren't at their most competitive at the moment. Um, so you have this like while there isn't so much in game to be working on right now because the game isn't even out, you have this wonderful opportunity to be mindful of like, okay, like, what am I gonna do, and how am I gonna feel when I get upset? How am I gonna keep on accomplishing my goals long term? You can really start to introspect, understand yourself, and I would implore you guys all to have like the best understanding of yourself possible going into December 7th, because that is going to have like crazy long term benefits throughout the game's lifespan. In terms of gameplay wise, like Smash 4 to Ultimate, a lot is going to cross over, right? Or, just basic concepts, ledge control or stage control, ledge trapping, edge guarding, right? I mean, I think playing the game right now is still a huge benefit. But yeah, the game is in Smash 4, maybe whatever game you're playing right now is still going to benefit you crossing over, right? There's still a platform fighting fundamentals. But maybe like the stuff like some of the specific Smash 4 cheese that you get, like some like Bayo ladders and perfect pivot spamming and stuff like that like has been taken out of Smash Ultimate. Maybe now is the time to start playing other characters and messing around and trying to like iron in your fundamentals. What do you think, Abhi?
Yeah, definitely. I think pick up a new character, pick up a top tier. Nope, learn what it is to pick up a good character and know how to abuse good techniques and good moves. Like, I mean, at the very beginning, before I was TO and someone that was focused on contributing to the community, I played pre-patch Sheik.
Ugh,
I abused the hell out of fair. Like I knew how to get my wins. Like it was
that move was
and
so ridiculous. By the way,
yeah,
pre-patch
it was
fair
it
had
was a little
longer range
ridiculous.
than Marth.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, but I was conscientious of the fact that it was a really good move, and that's why I was able to abuse that for a while. So yeah, kind of pick up what you think. If your goal that is to just is just to win and pick up the best character in Ultimate, yeah, understanding what it means to abuse a certain technique is really important as well.
I'm with it, man. I'm down for that. I think we've concluded our discussion of preparation. What an awesome conversation, Navy. I had a really good time talking to you about that today.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a lot to be said, even furthermore, to be said about getting in the right state to go to a tournament and tournament anxiety and matchups and bag of demons. I feel like it's such a an intricate topic, but I'm glad that we got to touch on it and kind of give some life to it today.
Absolutely, man. So this is normally the time of the show where we talk, where we answer your questions from Twitter. Last week, we did answer questions. We didn't get them from Twitter, but regardless, we have come to the conclusion that this bit just isn't working for us. It's although our audience grows and grows, this show, this segment has been getting less and less. I don't know, feedback. I suppose we just haven't been getting many questions in. Simply put, I mean, I don't really want to sugarcoat it, which is fine. It's totally okay. You know, we're taking the feedback, and we are going to do something fun with this end of the show. We haven't quite decided on what bit we're gonna do. We don't have it prepared for this week, partially because we wanted to ask you guys, hey, do you have any suggestions? Do you want us to do something in particular at the end? You know, what is it that you listen for? We don't even know. You know, give us some feedback. Hit us up. Whatever we end up doing, it will be fun though. Avy, isn't that right?
Yeah, definitely. I think you should hop into our Discord. We have a few invites still open, and go message us on Twitter or on our personals what you want to see at the end of our show.
Yeah, man, I'm with it. But I referenced just previously right now that our audience is growing and growing, and we've seen growth that is so humbling for us. Because I mean, when Avi and I came into this podcast, we decided, look, man, let's make a show about Smash. You know, we love Smash; it's a big part of our lives. But we need to differentiate ourselves. I mean, who's Peon and AV? Like, who cares? Why do people want to listen to us? We need to have something that differentiates us. We need to actually provide, like, you know, have a unique voice. And we've gravitated towards what we actually talk about in real life, which is like those kind of meta aspect, you know, this personal development aspect of Smash, which we both deem so valuable. And, you know, to our surprise, more than like one person a week is watching or listening. But yeah, in celebration of you guys and for our ever-growing community, we're going to be doing giveaway number 2, baby. Beyond the Metagame, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate giveaway, coming to a home near you, okay? You're not only going to win the game, which you're going to win, you're also going to be entered on the BeyondTheMetagame.com Wall of Fame, right next to our interviewees and previous contest winner Blake.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. It's starting to shape up to be a cool wall of people there, and you're sure to be joined by plenty of really cool people. So
I think
it
we got a lot of people. We got J Tails is up there, G Pig, Paul McCartney. I don't know
Paul McCartney,
friend of the show. Oh, who was the last week? Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Chris Tyson.
All
But
of
yeah,
our friends.
yeah, definitely. So we're gonna have that giveaway. The conditions have not been set completely yet, so look for that in the next 2 or 3 days. Also, we'll be laying everything out in the next podcast. So listen to the next episode if you guys don't necessarily check into Twitter.
AV, where can people, speaking of Twitter, where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me at Abhi Vaidyanatha. My long last name that was the same last week will be the same in the following week. And you can always find it on our website or on our Twitter, which is at Beyond Metagame. That is the podcast Twitter. Where can people find you, Dane?
They can find me at Peon_GCE. That's Golf Charlie Echo. For all you sailors. Do sailors do that? Is that just pilots?
I think I have no idea. It sounds like a military thing, honestly.
All right. Either way, that is all for this week. Guys, girls, thank you so much for listening. And make sure to tune in next week.